Slapped the wrong woman. Navy SEAL husband delivered justice. Imagine this. Two men dressed as HOA cops knock on a family's door. They claim to be enforcing neighborhood rules. But when the wife dares to question them, one of them does the unthinkable. He slaps her across the face. What they didn't know was that her husband wasn't just any man. He was a retired Navy SEAL. And when he came home, their entire plan backfired in the most brutal way. Before I dive into the story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. Because you're about to hear how fake cops met real consequences. On a quiet Saturday morning in a suburban neighborhood, Monica, a 32-year-old mother of two, was making breakfast when she heard a sharp knock on the front door. Standing outside were two men in dark uniforms that looked official enough to pass as some sort of law enforcement. Their shirts read, HOA Patrol, something Monica had never seen before. They introduced themselves as neighborhood enforcers, saying they were sent by the Homeowners Association to check compliance. Monica frowned. Her family had lived there for almost a year, and not once had the HOA ever sent people to her door like this. "Ma'am, step aside," one of them ordered. "We need to inspect your backyard and garage." Confused but cautious, Monica replied, "Excuse me, I don't know who you are. Do you have ID? HOA doesn't send police." That's when their friendly mask slipped. One of them stepped closer, towering over her. "Don't make this hard. We're here to enforce rules. Either cooperate or you'll regret it." Something didn't feel right. Their badges looked cheap, their attitudes aggressive. Monica stood her ground, but she had no idea how far these imposters were willing to go. Monica's refusal to let them in enraged the men. One of them shoved the door wider and barked, "We don't need permission!" Monica quickly tried to shut it back, but the larger man blocked it with his boot. "You don't belong in this neighborhood," the taller one sneered. "People like you drag property values down." Her heart sank. She knew exactly what he meant. This wasn't about HOA rules. This was about race. Monica snapped back, "You're not real officers. Get off my porch before I call the police." That's when it happened. The man nearest to her suddenly raised his hand and slapped her hard across the face. The sound echoed down the street. Monica stumbled back, clutching her cheek, tears stinging her eyes. Not just from pain, but from the humiliation of being struck in her own home. The men smirked. "Maybe now you'll learn some respect," one muttered, as if she was beneath them. But what they didn't realize was that Monica's husband, Marcus, was pulling into the driveway at that exact moment. And Marcus wasn't just any husband. He was a retired Navy SEAL who had spent 15 years in the toughest missions overseas. And the second he saw his wife's tear-stained face and the red mark on her cheek, something inside him snapped. Marcus stepped out of his truck calmly, but his eyes were cold. The two fake officers turned, trying to puff up their authority. "You the homeowner?" one asked, trying to sound tough. "We're here on official HOA business. Your wife's been resisting." Marcus glanced at their fake badges, then back at his wife. Without a word, he walked up the steps until he was face to face with the man who had slapped Monica. "Did you put your hands on my wife?" Marcus asked in a low, dangerous tone. The man smirked. "She needed a little correction." "What are you going to do about it?" What happened next was fast, too fast for the imposters to react. Marcus struck with precision, a quick elbow to the first man's jaw, sending him crashing against the wall. The second man lunged, but Marcus sidestepped, hooked his arm, and flipped him straight onto the porch floorboards with a thud. Years of military training flowed through Marcus like instinct. These men weren't fighters. They were bullies in cheap uniforms, and bullies crumble when they meet real strength. Within seconds, both men were groaning on the ground, clutching broken noses and bruised ribs. Marcus stood over them, his voice like ice. "You don't ever lay a hand on my wife." You picked the wrong house. Neighbors who had heard the commotion began peeking out of their homes. Phones were out, recording every second. Someone had already called the real police. By the time officers arrived, Marcus had the two imposters pinned on the ground, wrists zip-tied with cable ties he kept in his truck. The truth spilled quickly. These weren't HOA cops at all. They were con men, going door to door pretending to enforce rules so they could intimidate homeowners, especially targeting families they thought wouldn't fight back. But they hadn't expected to meet a Navy SEAL. The real officers thanked Marcus for detaining them, and both frauds were taken into custody on charges of impersonating officers, assault, and attempted home invasion. As the patrol cars drove away, Monica hugged Marcus tightly. "I was so scared," she whispered. He kissed her forehead and said, "No one touches you." "Not while I'm alive." News of the incident spread across the neighborhood, and eventually across social media, thanks to the neighbors' videos. Marcus became a local hero, not just for defending his family, but for exposing a dangerous scam. The fake HOA cops thought they could intimidate a family and get away with it, but instead, Hay learned a brutal truth. When you prey on the innocent, sometimes you run into someone trained to fight back. And that day, they picked the wrong wife, the wrong house, and the wrong Navy SEAL.